about the game yesterday. Certainly there's a lot of things as we looked at it this morning and as we're going through with the players here this afternoon and just getting ready to clean some things up here for the day. But some things that we got to get better at, we got to improve, we got to correct. It's a really good team. The Chargers they're a mentally tough team, physically tough team. They play at a high level, and they're outstanding in really close ball games. So it was good for our team to go out there and compete for 60 minutes, and really kind of come up with some plays there at the end of the game that help give us a chance to win, and then ultimately at the end of it, come through in those situations. So I think from a standpoint of series of events at the end of the game, which obviously the game had some ups and downs in it as you go through it, like most of them do in the NFL. I think when you get to the forced fumble on the goal line, to the 4th and 1 conversion, to the touchdown pass after that, from that standpoint, then the 2-minute drive that they had that we obviously, intercepted the ball in the end zone, and then the end of the game 4-minute kind of operation, got to have it play at the end. Those are 5 pretty important situational football plays that I thought those guys executed at a high level and really kind of was the difference between, week 1 and week 2. And that's really kind of, that's the way the NFL is. And we understand we got to learn from it and we got to improve it and we got to move forward. And hopefully some of those plays in between, we can get those fixed and kind of play a little bit more consistent through the entire course of the game so that, we're not always in those situations. But I was happy for the players. I think they continually put a tremendous amount of work into what they do. And it's a great group of guys. It's a strong group. They care about each other a lot and they work really hard for each other. And I think that was evident yesterday and especially after the game. I think as happy as everybody was, it was just great to see, everybody just kind of excited for each other. So, and that's what we're trying to do. So it was good, but we're back to work at it. We're going to finish up here in a little bit with the game from yesterday and obviously quickly turn the page to Philadelphia. We got another big challenge in front of us this week. So.
Now that you've seen the film, your thoughts on the protection and in particular Tyler Crosby?
Yeah. I think the protection, I think those guys did a really good job up front. We talk about the depth and the width of the pocket. I thought there was some really good plays out there. We had some different schemes from a protection standpoint to kind of give some help where we needed to. They moved those guys around. They had a couple of different pressure schemes that they haven't shown before and they really haven't used a lot of. So I think there was a lot of adjustment within the game. That's probably not what you would expect out of kind of that defensive style. I think those guys brought a lot more looks than maybe what they have shown before. So I thought those guys handled it really well. I think when you look at it, though, the overall design of some of the plays, and I think like I said, maybe last night, the quickness of the routes, guys were trying to get open and find space and get, their eyes back to the quarterback and the quarterback getting rid of the ball, in a timely manner. I think that all kind of played in part to, have that success. So it was good to see. We got to build on it as we go forward, but it was good to kind of, see that against, a really good front. Those are really, really good players up there.
Specifically about Crosby, that was his first start of the season. Obviously, he had a rough preseason, but he looked pretty good yesterday.
Yeah.
What was different, maybe, that he did yesterday?
I think with some of those guys, and Crosby too, there was definitely some good plays in the passing game, and there's some plays out there on the field that we think that we got to do a better job. But it was encouraging from that standpoint. Honestly, I think he worked really hard during the week. He kind of just stepped in the week and just kind of went out there. And as we go through the week, we're not really sure what it's going to look like by the time we get to game day. And he just went and prepared like he had to play. And in the end, he did. And I thought it looked a lot like what he was trying to do during the course of the week of practice. So, that's a positive from that standpoint.
One more on your offensive line. Ground game numbers probably aren't where you want them to be efficiency-wise, but just going back and looking at the game the second time, it seemed like you got a lot of push up front on several of those plays.
Yeah.
Looking at the film from your perspective, are you guys closer there than maybe the numbers indicate?
I guess we won't really know until we get there, from that standpoint. But I think, on tape, the biggest thing for us in the run game that I saw that, we're trying to make a point of emphasis is just consistency. I think there's some really good plays out there. I think there's some yardage we left out there. I think there's some reads and some cuts that we could have done that would have generated some bigger plays. And maybe on a lot of it, it was like kind of just one block away from maybe something being a really positive play for us in the run game. As that goes, just like everything else in this league, things will change and things will move. I definitely agree with what you said. I thought there was some good surge in the front, in the middle. I thought there was some good plays up in there. And, I think Frank and Graham and those guys are doing a great job. And Joe Dahl and Kenny Wiggins, when he was in there, he made a really nice block, redirected on a stunt where they came underneath and he drove the guy down and gave us a good running lane. So we just got to keep building it. Again, the running run game on offense, the run defense. I think those are all things, for me right now, I'm still harping on pad level. We're just too high. I just think in general it's, just a lack of opportunity to work on that stuff, and we got to get our pads down, and we got to do the best we can through the course of the week to be able to get that done with the limited amount of padded practices we're allowed. So that's really kind of got to be our focus. We got to just, continually just work the fundamental techniques with that.
Special teams, you made an in-game change there on your return man. You looking at that as a long-term thing?
That was really just an in-game adjustment, something that we had, that I was just going through as far as if we needed to make sure ball security. We knew it was going to be a tight game from that standpoint. It was kind of a these games are a little bit different. There was a shorter amount of series in the game, shorter amount of plays, and sometimes that's on purpose. So we knew that the ball security was going to be really important, and especially, in just that situation, and just made a quick change as far as that's concerned. But we'll just keep going forward. I mean, obviously, like I said last night, Agnew's he's a tremendous player. He's got explosive ability, and he's obviously done a lot. So we're just get back to work. That's really kind of our bottom line there.
Is there a benefit? Sorry.
Go ahead.
To what extent do you think this was a step for your team, a step in the right direction, and just a building block that you can?
Yeah, I think for us, obviously we won't have so many of these opportunities, So anytime you win, you try to use it as a step forward. But I think they're only step forwards if you really learn from the mistakes that you made within those games. I think if you mask any of that or try to just move past it and think that those mistakes aren't going to happen again just because you won, I think it's important for us to get it fixed and corrected as we go forward. Yeah.
Game from when things did go wrong, that they did respond following
Yeah.
that.
I mean, it's obviously again in the isolated game yesterday. I think that's a great it's a great thing for us to build on. Certainly different teams pose different challenges in those situations, and we just got to continue to get better. But it certainly was great from that standpoint yesterday. I thought it was a good thing for us to show today, again, kind of in hindsight with the players when things are a little bit calmer, to kind of say, okay, hey, this is what we had, this is what it looked like, we talked about this before, this is what we practiced, and this was the execution of it, and that's why we do the things that we do. I think that was a good kind of learning moment for us.
Is there going back to Agnew for a second, is there a benefit from sitting a guy, if he is clearly struggling, to kind of let him reset and refocus, or is that, at this level, does that, and not with a rookie, does that not really matter?
There's probably cases for all of it, depending on the person, depending on the individual, depending on what the situation is. Sometimes definitely been in situations where I had to, take a guy out just for a series to kind of just settle things down and get him back out there and, just go from there from that standpoint, or may have been just kind of a holistic change based on some things that we were seeing. So I think all those cases are individual based, and really you're trying to do what's best for the team at that moment, and then once you get through the moment or get through the game, you go back and reevaluate, and hopefully you made a decision that was best for the team, and once that's over, then you try to go back and just go back to work with it, coach it back up, and regroup and go. So that's all that was.
Kind of carried on Johnson a little bit more in the third down role yesterday. Was there something he was doing blocking wise, or CJ wasn't, or why, I guess, did you use him?
No, I mean it's only game 2, so we haven't had enough third downs to really get a full evaluation of all that stuff. And I think for us to try to keep it moving is probably beneficial from that standpoint to just put stress on the other side of the ball. I think for us in general with the protection part of it, we've seen a lot out of all those guys. So, some of those looks that we see, we feel good about any of those guys being in there at that time.
Just keep the offense going.
Yeah, kind of.
I wanted to,
Kenny Galladay seems like he's always been a good off-field guy, hard worker. Kind of fell into more of a leadership role last year just because of the situation wide receiver. What sort of progress have you seen from him in that off-field stuff, the maturation in that?
Yeah, I think, Kenny's a pretty quiet guy, comes to work every single day. He's pretty much just the same consistent guy, and I think he's trying to improve and get better. So from that standpoint, leadership comes in all different forms, whether you're just kind of doing what you're supposed to do. And I think that's probably the biggest thing. And sometimes leadership is best when it's not even spoken about. It's just the way that people handle their business and go about what they do. And I think that's what Kenny does. I think he just comes in every single week. And again, like I said, he's in the middle of a learning process. He's a little bit of a different player than he was, a year ago at this time, and has to really see a lot of things that are going to come at them and a lot of different adjustments. And even yesterday in the game, there was a couple things that they did a little bit differently than what they had shown. And we got to be able to adjust and recognize those and go forward. So his approach is really the best way to do that, and just coming in and being consistent and being the same and understand that each week is its own entity and it's going to be different. And we have to just do everything we can to prepare for that week for whatever it is that they give us.
Back to your pad level comments, I think we all understand some level of leverage and low man wins. But why do you think it's not great earlier in the year and it gets better? I don't know, it seems like maybe that's a flexibility element or something to it. Like, why does it get better as the season goes on?
Yeah, I think it's probably a combination of two things. I think your body gets used to being in those positions, and you can kind of sustain it. So you do build that kind of football strength as you go through the season. Weight room strength is great, and all those explosive movements that we do are generated for a reason, to be explosive on contact. But there's also sustainable strength in those positions that you physically have to be in. When you put a bar on your back or you work in the weight room, it's different than having someone physically push on you in those situations. And there's different muscle groups that come into it, and balance and all the rest of it. And then on top of that, you got to put in block recognition and different schemes and different types of players that are blocking you, and all those things take a little bit to get used to. And then certainly there's some situations where, especially early in the year, I think what happens in the NFL is there's new schemes, there's new plays, there's stuff that's maybe a little bit different than what maybe we had seen last year. And as the season goes, you either get used to them, you see a lot of them, or maybe sometimes they go away and things get a little bit more basic. I think that's part of it. And I think as you go through the season, I think sometimes pad level is not a point of emphasis for everybody all the time. And I think some pad level gets worse and some gets better. And hopefully we just kind of continue to get it better.
You graduated with a cane and now a clutch instead of a scooter. I guess two-part question. First, you missed the scooter.
We're day by day.
And just more of an injury status update on, because you're also now on the sideline. It seems like, did you get a clarification on that where you could be there with the cane?
I'm trying to help you here. I'm trying to figure out what to go. We're good. I'm sore today. We're good. Other than that, I'm just pushing along. So appreciate it. It's good. We got the crutch today. The cane was good, and we'll keep going forward.
Is this scooter done now?
I mean, I get this is a long building. Sometimes it takes me a while to get down. It's just like 100 yards long, so I get a little quicker with the scooter. I can buzz down here.
Can I ask one non-cane related question?
Yeah, it'd be great.
All right. I know you're not gonna say too much about the schematics of how it'll work at linebacker when Jared comes back, but I'm just curious about the depth that you have with Tavai now emerging and getting some experience, and maybe how you see that rotation or whatever working out.
Yeah. I think we'll figure it out as we go through there. I think it's always for me. I'm trying to have as many good players as possible out on the field as much as we can, and certainly I think with Jelani's kind of been forced into some action here. Live reps, game reps are always the best ones to get, and I think he's tried to take full advantage of those as we go forward. But it's always good to have really good depth during the game, especially if they go long. This one was a little bit shorter for us than it was last week, and those are the types of games sometimes, especially in September. September you run into some hot and humid weather. All of a sudden, you get into those, and you need to have that depth. And it also helps with special teams. That's another big part of it too. That working into some of those phases and having those. Linebacker, tight end, running back, those types of in-between skill type guys, you need enough of those out on the field. So that'll help us with a little bit more depth there too. Okay.
Yes.
Thanks, good. I think I just, real quick, on the penalty thing, because I just wanted to make sure I told you that. So, what they came and told me on the sideline was correct. It was either take the ball, re-kick. Because what this decision was is that because it's a spot foul, because when the ball's in the air, it's a spot foul. So they would have been half the distance from, I think they had contacted us at I can't remember, the 11 or something like that. So the ball would have gone to like the 8, and since we downed them at the 3, that's why sometimes the officials will just shorten it for you to keep the pace of the game going. So they're just trying to give you best case scenario. So that kind of is the clarification there.
To learn from that and come out, have a better performance yesterday, and I think we all worked together as a group very well.
Just keeping the quarterback clean, how big of a deal is that, really? I mean, how much do you take into that?
Oh, yeah, that's our main concern. We take a lot of pride in keeping him upright, and when we have games like that, we're definitely proud. But it takes everybody. It takes Stafford getting the ball out quick. It takes the receivers getting open. So it's really a whole offensive effort.
What do you think of Crosby? Obviously, tough test for him stepping in there, especially against those two guys.
Yeah.
So how you thought he came out?
Yeah, I mean, those two are on the edges are elite rushers, and Crosby stepped in. Really had a great game, and I think that's a really important part of the O-line. There's going to be injuries, so having guys step up really helps.
What is it like in the O-line room on the day after a win like that, when you guys did keep the quarterback clean and you guys came from behind and managed to win?
Yeah, I mean, just a great feeling, keeping Stafford safe, and that's really our number one job. And when that happens, we like to celebrate a little bit.
Yeah, but so like, what's the celebration like in the room, and what do you guys? Just give us a little.
Pizza party?
Yeah, pizza. Yeah, we'll have donuts tomorrow.
Where do you see some maybe improvements still when you broke down the film today? Some things you'd like to maybe clean up heading into next week?
Yeah, I think we just got to continue improving our run game. We left a little bit of yardage out there, and I think we just continue having good work days during the week. I think we can do that.
Yeah, Frank, we talk about like the quarterback and the receivers and all that hanging in there in a close game like that. What's it like there up on the offensive line when, it's a tight game like that and one mistake can make a big difference? What is it like playing underneath that pressure up front?
I mean, I don't think we really feel the pressure. I mean, every play is important. Sure. It doesn't matter if it's in the first or fourth quarter. Every play, matters when it comes down to the end.
You mentioned the ground game. It did seem you guys got some really good push consistently throughout the game. Do you think close to solving it, to maybe break a big performance for the backs?
Yeah, we just got to keep doing what we're doing. It's arm tackle here or there. I think there's going to be some big runs, but just O-line just got to keep pushing, and they're going to start breaking.
Frank said you guys were giving him a hard time for his little celebration.
Oh yeah, that was funny. Yeah, he got some air. He jumped. It was funny.
What do you think his vertical is?
15.
Yeah.
What about his hang time?
Not much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Frank. Appreciate it.